Yeah.
no's, so he barely made it in.
Okay, you guys are live.
All right, good evening, everyone. It's July 29th, meeting of the, excuse me, Town Administrator Search Committee. And we'll have a motion to open up our meeting.
Motion.
Second, okay, all in favor? All right, very good. We'll open up our meeting. First order of business is the minutes from the July 20th, and I'll turn it over to Beth. Beth?
If we could just revote the minutes of the July 13th meeting, the first meeting, because I had the wrong date on that. So if we could take a vote to correct, I corrected the date, nothing else has changed, so if we could revote that meeting, the first meeting.
Great. To revote the meeting minutes for July 20th, do I have a motion?
Yes.
Second? All in fa-
Motion to approve them as amended.
As amended. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Unanimous. Terrific. Thank you. So the order of business today includes the following items. I'm going to share with you the experience that Rebecca and I had with the Board of Selectmen the other day and some key decisions. Due to some technical difficulties, we were not able to project the 25-minute presentation that we did. It will be up tonight. I still recommend everyone to take a look at it because I think it's really good to see the enthusiasm of the Select Board in addition to how supportive they are of our works. I'm really excited about that. So bottom line is that I did ask for a charge based on your recommendation, and I did receive the charge in 4 parts. And those 4 parts is that we're going to have an open application process until filled. We're going to be able to interview people. Rebecca will have access to the resumes, and the way she'll process them is literally just copy them, put them in envelopes with our names on them, and then we come to her office to pick them up. So nothing is transacted, electronically. And then what is the 4th item? And the most important, the hiring of community paradigm consultant. So what I do want to share with you tonight, though, is some new information about that. And I did send an email to Mr. Watson, Chairman Watson. And bottom line is, the other night, the board, and maybe Greg can help us with this, the other night, the Board of Selectmen said we can pay the consultant the $6,000. And there are 2 areas that we think you can pay the consultant from, the reserve fund or the salary line item. However, I did receive information, and I shared this with Chairman Watson this morning, unresolved as of this hour, at least with me that I'm aware of, that the town accountant has advised that we should not and cannot pull the money from the salary line item. It should only come from the reserve. So I've asked for clarification, and that really should be clarification between the select board and the town accountant. And I did offer to go meet with them next week to get some clarity on that so we can move forward. Greg, did you have a thought about that? Did you?
They're 100% right. You can't enter into a contract if you don't have the funds available to pay for it. You wouldn't have those funds available until a transfer is made at a town meeting. So the only avenue you have available to you to pay this person and the contract is the reserve fund at this point.
Okay.
It's the only one you have.
So Ruth had a meeting with the Finance Committee the night after our presentation, and unfortunately, they were not able to move forward because the Board of Selectmen effectively said we prefer the salary line item, and that's technically wrong. And they were good about it. I mean, they said, we're just not sure. We need some advice on it. It wasn't, they said they were insisting on it. They would just say, this is our hope. That's our preference.
Procedurally, you can take it from the reserve fund now and then at town meeting, transfer the money out of that back into the reserve fund. But I'm just saying right now that money's not available. It's been set aside for that purpose. You can't use it for another purpose. So the argument I would make is at the beginning when I asked them, are you okay using the reserve fund? Now that the selectmen have said they're okay pulling it out of there, you just put it back at fall town meeting. You just make a transfer from that line item to the reserve fund and you pay it back.
However it goes, we scheduled a meeting for Wednesday. We were prepared to vote the transfer from the reserve fund. But since that's not what took place on Tuesday, we really weren't in position then to vote the transfer from the reserve fund. So if the Board of Selectmen goes down that road, we'll just schedule another meeting and vote the reserve fund transfer.
Can your Finance Committee move forward with the reserve based on just the information? that we have tonight, or you need to get
I
clarity?
wouldn't choose to. I would choose to only do that based on the initiation of that by the Board of Selectmen. I wouldn't want to initiate and vote a reserve fund transfer without confirmation from them that that was their choice to begin with.
Okay, so I'm going to send a message to
I
them.
feel like that would be out of order.
I'll send them a message again tonight, and I'll ask them for 5 minutes, even if it's just a public comment, to say, you really don't have a choice. So you need to give a direction in writing to the Finance Committee so they can vote on it and we can get going.
Did they make a motion as to taking the funds directly out of the reserve fund? Because I don't recall them making a motion
No.
that the funds were coming from the, or the salary line item. I just remember them discussing that there should be enough monies available due to the salary line item itself. So are we looking for a specific motion from the Board of Selectmen in order to move forward?
I wasn't able to view any of the meeting because it hasn't been televised. It wasn't televised live on Tuesday, and it hasn't been made available as of yet. So I wasn't even able to observe exactly what their discussion was. So with me not having access to their discussion, coupled with not getting confirmation of a reserve fund request, I didn't feel it was appropriate for us to make
So
that.
it would be a reserve fund
decision.
request that we need specifically in order to move forward. Understood. Because I believe that, just for the record, I believe that was the conversation with the Board of Selectmen, is that it was recommended that the funds come from the reserve fund, and then kind of just like what Greg was stating, is that there would be additional items to replenish that fund based upon the salary account item. But whether or not they actually explicitly asked for a reserve transfer is definitely
Yeah,
something they did
that-
not do.
That wasn't the recounting of the meeting that I got, but I didn't see it, so all of that. Once they make an official vote, we'll
Clarity
be
is needed.
happy to go forward with it. And we can,
Would you be able to move forward if you get well, actually, they may have to vote on it. That's the point. Okay, all right, I'll see if I can get them to vote on it. I believe I hope they're meeting Tuesday night, and I'll offer to go and just get that over the goal line for us.
They're meeting August 2nd, so that would be Monday night,
This coming Monday.
this coming Monday night.
Okay, I'll ask if I can at least do public comment. It should take 3 or 4 minutes just to say, here's the deal, can you vote on it, and that's
in
it.
any case, they're supportive of
Oh, absolutely.
the funding. And it's
Absolutely.
just a matter of logistics, how we officially approve it. And so I don't see it being as being a problem, I just see it as following procedure. That's all.
Yeah, Rebecca and I made a presentation. Like I said, it was really well-received, and it was very positive and upbeat, and I'm excited about the whole process and how well the Select Board is working so well, and especially in supporting us, so. The next item that I presented to them, and I presented to them strictly as a draft, is a schedule. And I presented to them as a draft because I told them I need to bring this to my committee for approval. Now, one of the things that makes us a high-performance team, which we are, we get a lot of stuff done, is we use subcommittees. We also do informational purposes email, meaning that I can send out information and everybody knows the rules. We don't talk to each other. We don't send emails to each other. I just send information out. So I sent out the schedule so that you would get it in advance, so that we wouldn't spend 15, 20 minutes going over it for the first time tonight. So what I presented is the following, that tonight, we approved the job description. That's the work of one of the subcommittees we set up last week. That closes that subcommittee tonight. We also approved the initial question bank and scoring system. That's the second subcommittee that we set up last week. Hopefully their work is done tonight and we approve it. That we agree to continue to review individually on our own candidates. Now, tonight, if we do approve the questions and the scoring system, I'm going to go back to some candidates that I'm already ready to promote based on the first batch of emails that I have. And if we all continue to do that individually, we don't need a consultant, we don't need to do anything. As long as we're doing it on our own initially, in the next couple of weeks or so, we're working towards the goal of, when we do get into executive session and when we are working with a consultant, we all have our ponies picked initially. By August 5th, it is my hope that the Select Board will interview and hire community paradigm consultant. However, by that same date, this committee convenes an executive session. In other words, we're not going to wait a whole week or 2 or 3 for the Board of Selectmen to hire the consultant. I believe that by next week, we should meet in executive session and start considering who likes what candidate. On August 12th, I'd like to have, hopefully, a joint session between this committee and the consultant. And also on that evening, we do a second executive session to review and discuss individually identified candidates. By August 19th, we have a joint session again with the consultant, and we continue in executive session to finalize list of candidates. By August 26th, the search committee with the consultant will begin interviewing candidates. Remember, we have that in the charge now, so we can do that. We can interview candidates with the guidance of the consultant. Keep in mind, the consultant may modify this list of questions and the scoring system, may replace it. So we'll work, with the consultant. By September 3rd, the search committee will interview candidates, that's us, followed by executive session to select 3 to 5. The select board were very clear. They said, please don't give us 2 candidates to choose from. Don't be shy. Selectman McDonald said, you can produce 5 or 6. Don't be shy about, if you are really excited about certain candidates, don't restrict yourself to 2 or 3 or 4. You're good, 3 to 5 is good, is kind of our target, and I think that the Rebecca, helped the select board set a absolute bare minimum of 3. So anywhere from 3 to 6, 3 to 5 candidates, we can do that. So by September 10th, the search committee initiates second interviews with candidates, again, with guidance by the consultant. By the September 11th, in writing, with the blessing of this committee, I'll send the communication in writing to the chair of the select board and say, these are the candidates that this committee has screened for you. It could be 3 or more. Can't be less than 3. By September 17th, we can now watch the meeting. We can stay home because the select board, by that week, the select board can interview their candidates in open session. By the 24th, the select board can convene an executive session and select their final candidate. By October 1st, they do background checks and reference checks, and by October 9th, they make an offer. So somewhere between September 17th, September 24th, we're done, and somewhere between October 1st and October 9th, they hire. That's the schedule that I've set. Would anybody like to make any changes, modifications, suggestions? If not, we'll vote, approve it, and submit it.
I just have one question.
Sure,
When the candidates that we narrowed down to the 4 or 5, when
yes.
they go to the Board of Selectmen, we're gonna let them know at that point they're going public? Because then their anonymity disappears.
Oh, yeah, well, that's the beauty of the consultant, to help us fine-tune the
Right.
procedure on how to communicate that. You're right. Because, again, Selectman Watson, McDonald spoke about, I think all 5 of them spoke about it. They want us to, they're excited about us. We're not excited, nobody's excited about spending money, but they're excited that we're gonna align ourselves with a consultant to keep us on the straight and narrow,
Right.
which really falls right back to Chief Gillen's original
Right.
opening of our first meeting, so thank you for that.
Can I
It
make one
opened up my eyes.
Point to
Yes.
Joe, also the revised job description says that the interviews with the screening committee will be confidential, and the final interviews with the Board of Selectmen will be in a public meeting.
Excellent.
So it states it.
So that covers it.
Yep.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, did you mean to go from Thursdays to Fridays? Was that on purpose?
No, I'm just setting a date. We can meet Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Maybe we can try to pick one night if that's
Okay.
possible.
I just saw on that schedule, it went Thursday, and then at some point it goes to Friday nights, and I don't know.
Yeah, no, I'm setting sort of like worst case, like at the end of the week, but I don't think anybody wants to meet on a Friday.
Okay.
And I don't know if it's possible to pick, like, we meet just every Wednesday or every Tuesday, because I know, I really would like to try to get everybody there. So I've cleared my business calendar to have meetings early afternoons so that I'm open Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. There is an exception. I'm going to be visiting my parents down the Cape between August 9th and 12th. So if that is the week that you folks meet with the consultant, I don't have to worry about it. I'm in good hands. I'll ask Rebecca to run the meeting for us, and I'll get an update the next day, and I'll check out the meeting. I have very spotty internet service at that part of the Cape, and plus it's a quality issue. I want to make sure that we're maximizing our limited time with family, so, but, you know, I'll, whatever you need me to do, I'll do, but I can help set the agenda, but I'll be absent that week, but you guys can carry on, so. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop talking, which is a rare thing, and I would like for you to peruse the schedule, make notes. Let's take 7 minutes and just study the schedule, see how it sits with you.
All these meetings, 5:30, correct?
Say it again?
All these dates are 5:30?
Yeah,
These aren't meeting dates.
they're not meeting dates, they're just suggestion of what by,
By
end
this
dates.
date, we should.
By this date, we should have these things, yeah, we might meet on August 9th, on the week of the, so those are completion dates. Also known as drop dead dates. Got to get done by.
I said the Friday.
Yeah, I
Okay, I think we're all set. Go ahead, Greg, you had some thoughts?
I was not a hard, I was just wondering if there was a way to compress the schedule a little bit. I was looking at numbers 5 and 6.
Okay.
Maybe it's the way it's written, or maybe I'm not grabbing it. I don't know why we'd have to interview candidates for promotion open session, then wait a week to interview the candidates to go to executive session to select 3 to 5 candidates. Wouldn't it be prudent to just interview the candidates and then let them leave and then go into executive session to promote and then send them forward?
Well, it's a very good point, because what I had envisioned here, which we could strike from the process, is we just do one interview, not 2. Because you see, it says here, September 3rd, search committee initiates second interviews with candidates. The other thing is, the other reason why I built that in, that could also mean that we have so many candidates, we can't do them all in one night. That's why I gave myself a little bit of room.
Understood. Maybe this is one of those cart before the horse things. Maybe as we've all gone through our applications and looked at them, you don't see a need to have enough people to bring in for 2 interviews. So maybe we can think about that later on and compress that
It might be done in
one.
2 weeks.
Yeah, no, this is actually a great thing as far as I'm concerned, that doesn't mean we can't compress them as we go on,
We
though.
definitely can, because I did tell, Rebecca and I made that clear the other night. We are going to be done either by September 17th or September 24th. So we did build, we can compress at least one of those. And that is the main area of compression, because we might get it all done in one night, or we have so many, so what I mean, I'll rewrite this. I didn't mean second interviews, like second night of
no.
interviews, yes, okay.
No,
Thank you, yeah.
No, I see exactly what you did, though. I think it's fine.
Okay.
We can always adjust if we have to.
But definitely, if we can get it done 3 weeks ahead, well, they're not going to object
Well.
by any stretch. I think the most important thing, at least for me, is that we're not going to let the hiring of the consultant disrupt our target. That's really critical. That's that's the thing that would cause a lot of stress to a lot of people, say, oh my goodness, there's some, can't release the money, or they're not going to say yes until 2 weeks from now, or whatever. We're moving. This committee is on a path. So until we interview candidates, we're safe by ourselves. Reviewing the resumes on our own at home, and then convening an executive session starting next week, we're safe, my opinion, so. Kathy, any thoughts? Chief, we're good, Chief?
Could I just ask, I know this is me, I just don't understand it.
Yeah.
It says we're gonna have 3 to 5 candidates that we forward to the select board,
Yeah?
and then you go to September 11th, and it says we're gonna have 2 finalists promoted by the search committee.
Right.
So what is the difference between the 3 to 5 and then we're
Well,
gonna do 2?
that has to be retyped.
Oh, okay.
We're gonna agree, if we're gonna vote this tonight, we're gonna change that to 3 to 5 on
Okay, I'm
both.
sorry.
That's really important. So, which number is that?
Number 7,
It's September 11th.
it goes 6, where we talk about 3 to 5,
Yeah,
and then number 7, then it says that it
Yeah,
goes
we're-
to 2 finalists.
yeah, we don't wanna
And number
present.
8 also has 2 finalists.
Yeah.
Which
One has two?
8, number 7 and number 8.
Number 7 and 8, we're gonna change 2 finalists to 3 to 5 finalists, minimum of 3.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, that's a change we're making tonight. And we can, if we vote on this, then, Beth, any thoughts?
Just that I know we might be delayed in hiring Paradigm, but we need to give them the opportunity to present as many candidates as they could present to us as well, so that we aren't limited in with only what we've received at this point.
That's a-
Part of our having
that's
a
a really
consultant
good point.
is that we have the option to have additional candidates. So,
That's a really good point. They have the opportunity, we have an opportunity to gain new candidates just through the consultant. really good point. Rebecca, any thoughts?
So I know that they voted to move in the direction of community paradigm. As we just stated, the finance board and board of selectmen need to finalize where those funds are coming from before initiating any work. But I am scheduled to have a conversation with the consultant in terms of next steps and schedule that they would see or recommend, or what direction that the committee would like to go in. So I was hoping to have a conversation with them, and then I can relay that information back to the committee, if that pleases the committee.
So, just to make sure that the public understands, could you just repeat the beginning, because your microphone was off, sorry. We really want the public to follow this.
So I can
Sorry.
reach out to Community Paradigm about next steps before and while the Board of Selectmen and the Finance Board finalize the funds and the reserve and the transfer, and then get a better understanding of the schedule as the consultant would recommend in comparison to what we discussed this evening, and report that back to the committee at our next meeting.
Great. Ruth, any thoughts?
No, I think it's great to have an outline, and I think that it should be understood that the outline will be somewhat fluid
Oh,
as,
absolutely.
you know, the consultant may have feedback for us, and we just need to be prepared to continually look at this, perhaps weekly, and see if we're on or off schedule, and be prepared to adjust it. But I think having a vision of how the process will work is a good thing to start.
Janet, any thoughts?
Yeah, I just have a question. The 3 resumes that you picked out as being good candidates?
Yes.
Are they from that packet of
The original
resumes?
packet we have, yes.
So when will we see those?
Well, if I'm away and you folks are in executive session, I'll make sure that you'll have my picks. But you'll see them next week if we go into executive session, and I'll be here next week.
Oh, okay.
If we go into executive session, I can say, hey, these are my 3, and I might have more than 3 because we have new ones that just came in.
Right. Thank you.
And thank you. All right, so can I have a motion to approve the flexible target schedule for completion of our work with the changes made to number 7 and number 8? Primarily that we are going to produce no less than 3 and between 3 to 5 candidates or more. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second? Any further discussion? How do you vote, Ruth?
Yes?
Janet?
Yes.
Beth?
Yes.
Rebecca?
Yes.
Greg?
Yes.
Kathy?
Yes.
Chief?
Yes.
And Chief. And I say yes as well. It's unanimous. So voted. Thank you. Really appreciate your
And I
support.
confirm that the motion was made by Jeff,
Bye.
just that when I'm listening to it afterwards, I'm not sure who made the motion and who seconded, so I
Right.
just want to confirm. Thank you.
Thank you. We have 2 subcommittees. Those subcommittees were put together by our group last week. Their work is completed tonight, but those subcommittees will stay open and active because we may have to go back to you for something. Like, for example, when we engage with the consultant can say, well, we need to go back to the drawing board on the job description. I don't know, he might say that, he might not. And then, okay, so then we're going to go back to the subcommittee and say, okay, rework it. Or, very likely, he may want to suggest some modifications that we adopt to the work of the other subcommittee that put together the list of questions with the scoring system. So, first subcommittee was the job description subcommittee. Beth and Ruth, what an amazing job you did. Thank you so much. I've read it. I have no comments. I love the way you laid it out. Excellent. Does anybody have any questions or comments?
I didn't get one.
And
Maybe I grabbed yours.
there you go. And I usually send everything out with informational purposes email. This one
I
just,
gave all of the copies to you.
Yeah,
Joe,
these-
did
this-
everybody get a copy?
this just
of
came off
that?
the press.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, this just came off the press very
It's
late in the
double-sided.
afternoon, so. Yes, okay, so I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to keep quiet for about 5 minutes.
Could you give a
Let's
copy
read
to
it.
Janet, please?
Oh, yes.
An extra.
I've already read it, so, and I've got a copy. So let's take 5 minutes and read it. Another minute or so? Okay, so let's go around the tables and see how people feel about the job description. Kathy, your thoughts?
I think it's excellent.
Okay.
Good job.
Greg?
Wouldn't change a comma. Love it.
Rebecca?
Great.
Beth? You wrote it, thank you.
Thank you to Ruth, she's awesome.
Janet?
Terrific, yeah, very good.
Chief, we're good?
Looks very impressive, yeah.
I'm willing to make a motion, we accept it as presented.
Great, we have a motion on the floor to accept the job description as produced by our job description subcommittee.
I'll second that.
Ruth, how do you vote?
Oh, I'll vote yes. No changes?
Janet?
Yes.
Beth, yes. I'll vote for you, how's that? Rebecca?
Yes.
Greg?
Yes.
Kathy?
Yes.
Chief? Chief, and yes, for me, it's unanimous. Great jobs. The next, the second subcommittee we created last week was the questions for candidates in the scoring system. So I haven't even seen this. This is like really fresh off the press. We weren't able to information purpose email this one in advance. So we're gonna take about 6 minutes to review it, okay? It's 10 past. We'll go till 11 past. I'm sorry, whatever that is, 6 minutes later. 16 past. And that was Chief Valentine and Janet Nolan. Thank you. Subcommittee members. Okay, let's take another minute. Okay, so I'll go around the tables and just get your opinion. But please allow me to open on this one. I have a thought I wanted to share with you, and maybe some of you may have thought about this already. So I am fine with adopting these questions if it is the pleasure of this committee as written. However, I feel very strongly that each one of us should retain the right to ask a question that's not on this list. And it's done in three ways. Number one, we feel that it's a question we want to ask a specific candidate. Like, for example, I might read a resume and there's something unique about that candidate that it's not on the list of questions, but I want to ask something specific. So I want to be able to ask the question to a specific candidate, or I may develop a question that I feel that I would like to apply to all candidates. So that's the first thing. The second thing is we have to get approval by the consultant. And we do that in executive session. Say, you know what, I want to introduce a question to XYZ candidate or all candidates. It's not on our official list that we voted on weeks ago. Is it okay? And we do it without the vote of the committee. In other words, if I want to ask a question, or Janet wants to ask a question, or Rebecca wants to ask a question not on this list of all candidates, and the consultant says, yes, it's fine, you can do that, then she's free to ask those questions. We don't have to put it to the committee to vote. It's a little complicated, but yes, we have a good list of questions. I'd like to retain the right, as an individual committee member and all of us, to ask specific questions with the approval of the consultant. How does that sit with you?
Can I?
Sure.
Question, Mr. Chair. These look like some really good questions, and I would think maybe we could even add a couple scenarios that some people here that know some conflicts they might run into doing the job. You know, like an unbalanced budget, or like Greg, maybe you know something like that somebody could get into a situation, like how do you get out of it if there's a problem, you know, like a finance problem. Like, I don't know those, but before we get too much further ahead, should we be waiting for the consultant to tell us what questions we should be asking? And do they already have some that they use to do like a scoring, that these might not apply? Are we like getting too far ahead of ourselves, where the consultant might come in and say, no, we have 20 questions we're going to ask, we think you should ask, and here's the rating system? And because how do you rate these and grade them?
Well, if you're asking me the question?
Yeah, well, anybody.
I'll answer the question, and then others can chime in. I think we should vote the questions with the amendments, perhaps the amendment that I'm suggesting, and then subject to full adoption, modification, or replacement by the consultant.
Okay.
Full adoption, modification, or total replacement by the consultant. This way here, when I'm looking at resumes this weekend, now I'm thinking what I think I'm going to want to ask.
Well, that's the reason I didn't read the resumes, so I can come up with the questions without any
Yeah,
one person in particular that I might ask a question.
I mean,
I
these,
just did these.
these will
I
be,
checked several places. Janet contacted me with the latter half of these questions, because I had given her a few in the beginning, and this is what we came up with.
Greg,
Thank you. I read this with an eye towards what if I was sitting on the other side of the table, being asked these questions, and did I think that they were fair, things that someone should absolutely know to have this position? Yeah, exactly. Every one of these questions I could answer, and they were fair questions. And anybody who wants this job should know these. I mean, know them without looking in a book either. I mean, this is basic stuff you should know. Secondly, where it comes to you, there's a couple of things I would add to it that I would hope every candidate would be asked. One, that Chief Gillen already brought up, in other words, how would you handle a budget deficit, a mid-year budget deficit situation? And the second one is, could you explain any experience you have with regional school districts? That is a major part of how this is gonna, is part of this job. So, but I mean, I'd add those two to it
What was
with
that,
these.
Mid-year budget? How did you word that? Mid-year budget?
A mid-year budget deficit.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
It happens.
So when people
Sadly,
like you,
more than you'd think.
when people like you come around asking for more money in the middle of the year, is that?
Well, it could be anything. It could be, we have one of those winters we had 5 years ago. It could be any little thing like that. But,
Yeah, I remember that with the roof.
yeah, I
That
mean,
was a nightmare.
budgets tend to be done based upon the amount of revenue you have. So there's a lot of, when bad things happen, there's usually not a line item for bad things. So it's one of those things I think that when the chief brought that up, it triggered in my head. I said, oh my God, that's a great one.
It's just something that we do when I hire people, we use these scenarios, because people
Sure.
might be able to answer, these are great questions, but then to apply it to a real problem that, you know, we can all think about.
Yeah.
And again, I think they're great questions, but. it's
Yeah,
like that might
but I
be-
mean, I thought these are very fair, pointed questions. I think they're excellent.
I was surprised by some of these. I didn't really know what to ask. It's been a long time since I've been on a search committee. This is like good
And like I
stuff.
said last week, this is a unique situation because of the town, where there's gonna be finance side that they have to take care of, human resources,
Mhm.
the way it's been run in the past, so I wanted to touch on every base. So I kinda looked up a few things from everything.
Kathy, any thoughts,
No,
suggestions?
they seem like great questions. Very good job.
Rebecca, your thoughts, questions, some thoughts? And your microphone's on.
Did I write?
Beth?
Just one question. I didn't think you could have different questions for different candidates. I thought you had to be specific with your questions, and every candidate had to have the same question. So I didn't think your potential change is acceptable. But you let me know, because I'm not a professional at all, and I don't know the specifics of whether you can ask different questions to different candidates. So that's my question to all of you. Is that an acceptable?
Yeah.
I think you have to ask these questions all the same, but I don't think there's anything wrong with a follow-up question based upon one of their answers.
I agree.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that at all. I agree, whatever questions we ask, the minimum should be everybody gets asked these. If there's a follow-up to an answer they give, if someone gives an answer that you're not quite sure of exactly what they meant, obviously a follow-up questions are appropriate. But as to if there's something specific to an individual candidate, maybe we allow
Little
two questions based upon the resume, specific.
Okay. That's a better way. That is a better way, then. That's a lot better than my way, which was very complicated. Good. Good idea, Beth. Thank you. And Greg. Janet?
No, I think
I
it
know you
looks-
like it 'cause you
Yeah, I
wrote
like it, yeah. No, I think the front page, there's a lot of things I couldn't answer, that's for sure, because of the knowledge that this person has to have. But I think it's a good mix of questions, and I like the idea that if you have a specific candidate that you want to ask a particular question to, like you said, couple of questions.
Off of the resume.
Yeah.
Resume-specific question.
Yeah,
Right, resume specific,
yeah,
yes.
Yeah, okay. That makes sense. Ruth?
Yeah, I like the list. I think it's very well-rounded. I think that it gets into the details of really what needs to be known. I just have two little comments. One is, number 12, would you consider yourself a good people manager? I think they're going to say yes. I do. I wonder if that question can be phrased to ask them to provide some sort of evidence. Can you, or even tie it, number 12 and number 13 together, which are would you consider yourself a good people manager? Should I be saying these maybe 11 and 12 could be tied together, or maybe they could ask for, can you describe a situation? It goes back to the situational. Could you give us an example or describe a situation sort of thing?
So these changes, including adding number 19 and 20, we can vote on those, and then maybe Janet, you can retype it, so we have next week, we have a copy of what was voted. Would you mind doing that?
Yeah, no, no.
And I had one other comment, which was, unless I missed it, because I did kind of skim it quickly, I didn't see a question about their familiarity with use of technology. I would want to know that they are confident and comfortable with using technology, with employing technology, with evaluating new technology that we would need to use. Comfortable and confident in that regard, kind of thing.
Okay. Anything else?
Oh, they're awesome.
Yeah,
You did a great job.
good job.
Great job, subcommittee. So let's, do I have a motion? Let me phrase the motion so that we don't have to repeat all the details, because it's on tape. So if Janet needs to look at it again, she can find this 620 to 625, those suggestions. So do I have a motion to adopt this question bank with the amendments suggested specifically by Chief Gillen, Greg, Beth, and Ruth? Striking mine. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we do whatever it is you just said.
Second.
Great. Any further discussion? Any further discussion? No? Ruth, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Janet?
Yes.
Beth?
Yes.
Rebecca?
Yes.
Greg?
Yes.
Kathy?
Yes.
Chief? Chief?
Yes.
I vote yes, it's unanimous. Is there any other item of business that we should be introducing for next week's meeting? And let's talk about next week in two fashions. Number one, what shall we put on the agenda? If you can help me write it real quick inside of a minute or two. And then number two, when would you like to meet? So I guess Monday night is a Board of Selectmen, Select Board meeting. I'm wide open Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Even if I meet with the Board of Selectmen, I can come to the meeting afterwards. So I'm only going to speak to them during public comment. So, how do we feel about next Tuesday?
Tuesday's fine. I'm good.
Okay.
August 3rd?
Third. There's a planning board meeting at 7, but as long as we do it before 7, there shouldn't be any.
Sure. We can go from 5:30 to, we can target 1-hour meetings, maybe a little bit longer on some future ones. So Tuesday, everybody fine? Kathy, you okay? Very good. All right, so Tuesday, we'll set a meeting at 5:30, and I'll ask Catherine to find us a room. Hopefully, it'll be here, hopefully. And that's it. So, what else? Any other business, anything that we should be looking at? Is there anything that you want to see on the agenda next week?
Should we plan on going into executive session next Tuesday to start looking at resumes?
So the agenda that I have next week is to just, open the meeting, any open item discussions, and then go right into executive session. So we're going to disappear from the public airwaves for a while, Chris.
Rebecca, I've done this in the past, although I know some companies don't like to do it. Do you think it's possible that Community Paradigm would be willing, before the contract actually signed, to come out here next Tuesday, see if they're available?
I believe they can participate via Zoom. I can.
That'd
see
be
if that
fine,
would
that'd be fine.
I can see if they're available.
Understanding that the vote for the provide the money and sign the contract is going to be delayed a little bit, but it's virtually certain.
Of course. I can ask.
I think it'd be helpful to get
Yeah,
them
I
up
mean,
here quick.
I wondered if you sign the contract and then we're invoiced. You know, I don't know exactly what, so I wonder if there would be a small amount of time built in there anyways. I don't know.
Yeah, well, some people don't like to just begin work until they have a signed contract, even though it's inevitable.
Well, they agreed to hire them. The board agreed to hire them. They just need to know which, you know,
Right, they just need a reserve fund transfer vote to pay them.
right.
Right.
So, but usually people don't sign contracts if they don't have a money source that's been voted yet. But it's
I
like
can
you don't go buy a house until you get the pre-approval from the bank, kind of. But
I understand that, but I'm just saying the board made the agreement.
Sure.
So,
I'm sure, like I said, I bet that I'm sure they'll participate. I doubt they'll have a problem with this.
I think
but-
it's just a matter of schedule, so as long as they have an opening on that date at 5:30, August 3rd, then I can definitely see if they'll be able to attend and set up a Zoom for them to do so.
Great, so the agenda for next week, I'll type it out tonight, I'll send it to Beth, is update on the consultant, possible Zoom meeting with the consultant, and then we go into executive session. Does that sound good?
Do you want to do the ranking system outside of executive session? Like favorable's worth 3 points, whatever we come up with before we go into executive session? I think we should probably vote the rating system in public.
Do we have a rating system?
No, like we were going to develop one, I thought you wanted to do.
I thought we had agreed on the yes, no, maybe.
Had we?
We were pretty.
We didn't vote on it, but it
yes,
was,
no, or maybe.
we didn't vote on it, but I think by consent, we said, for now, let's use yes, no, maybe.
Right.
So maybe we just vote that yes, no, maybe thing before we go into executive session.
Okay.
And before we close tonight's meeting, can I just clarify? The vote we took earlier for the minutes was an adjusted minutes for the first meeting, the June 13th, but we do still need to vote the minutes for the June 20th meeting. So if we could, July 20th. Sorry.
I'll make a
So if we
motion
could-
to
thank you.
accept the minutes for July 20th.
I'll second that.
Thank you.
How do you vote? How do you all vote?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Beth, if we go into executive session, you'll be able to, I think I mentioned this, you'll be able to read out the rigmarole.
Yes, I
Okay.
have that, if you want a copy of that now. So you
Sure,
have
I'll
the
take a
records
copy,
and-
yeah. So if we go into executive session, we'll read the the riot act, I call it, the executive session votes roll call, so.
Right, it does note that the chair should read it, but either way,
Sure.
just so that you have a copy of it as well in the event that.
Okay, well, it's 6:30. If there's no objection, I hereby close the meeting.
Vote to adjourn?
Vote to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
All right. So moved. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.